Hello and welcome to Kavish IAS, Converting Possibilities into Reality. In today's session of UPSC Mains Geography PYQ discussion, we will discuss another question that was asked in CSE 2018 Mains. They asked to evaluate how far Kober'S theory explains the mountain building process. So that was the question in front of you in the screen. And now from this question, we have to understand first the theory, and then we will discuss how to write these sort of questions and how different orientations or different approaches can be asked in the same. So first of all, whenever you will find the term evaluate, you have to keep it in mind that the examiner definitely wants some criticism, and this sort of criticism must be in point of view of other theories or in point of view technical fallacies. So in that question, whenever it is asked as mountain building theory by Kober, we have to first look into the matter, what the actually theory is of Kober's, what Kober says in his theory. Now let's discuss that Kober in his book Dar Bau Dar Erde, that was his famous book. I am writing it out here. Dar Bau Dar Erde. In this book, he explained that the geosynclines theory of mountain building. He defined the process of mountain building, that means the process of orogenesis, as the sum up or as the accumulation of three different stages. They are lithogenesis, orogenesis, and glyptogenesis. And after all, he discussed that how the mountains are being developed. Here we will also discuss that the Himalayan mountain, that is also a folded mountain, a long folded mountain, how it is being developed. So first thing first, we have to understand his theory in a simple manner. In his theory, he stated that the contraction period or the contraction of Earth's temperature is a major fact. So what is that contraction of Earth's temperature? That means in the initiating nature, the Earth was very hot, and whenever with respect to time, as the time passes, Earth started radiating its temperature and became cooled and solidified. Thus, it became contracted. And according to Kober's theory, this force of contraction was a result of cooling of the Earth. And in his theory, he says that there was some mobile water bodies where we are seeing the mountains at present day. Now, initially, as we know, the world was divided into two situations. That means the entire landmass or Pangaea and entire oceanic mass, that is Panthalassa. As we discussed in our early questions, then during the Silurian and Jurassic periods and other geological periods, the entire landmass or the Pangaea was broken, and after the breaking of Pangaea, we will found two different segments, that is Laurasia or Angara land in the north and Gondwana in the south. Then the Panthalassa ocean started to move or penetrating towards the landlocked areas, and that becomes the Tethys Sea or Tethys geosyncline with a narrow tract of water and mobility. According to Kober's theory, this was the main thing, that at present where we see the majestic mountains, in earlier times, there was mobile water bodies. So now the question comes, according to his theories, he talked about contraction. So why this portion contracted? That is due to the cooling of the earth. Now, in his theory, he talked about three steps or three stages. In stage 1, he mentioned lithogenesis. Now, what is lithogenesis? We have to understand that what a lithogenesis is. Basically, it is related to creation of geosynclines due to the force of contraction caused by the cooling of the earth. As I have mentioned earlier, with respect to time, the earth started to be cooled, and due to the contraction, geosyncline formed. And the rigid masses that formed finally, the rigid masses was called as foreland by Kober. In this stage, continuous sedimentation and subsidence take place. Now, to understand this, you have to look at the picture, you have to look at the diagram, that whenever there is a water body, as a natural nature of water, definitely it will erode these coastal areas. That means these are the coastal areas of the land. This was the coastal area of Laurasia, and this was the coastal area of Gondwana, as you can see in the picture. So the coastal areas were eroded, and the eroded material were deposited in the coasts of the geosyncline. Besides this, in the entire land, after breaking, as we can see here, there are some rivers for sure, and these rivers definitely eroded, and that eroded material was deposited in the Terrace. As we can see in recent times, our rivers Ganga or Normuda, Mohanodi, these rivers also do the same. So on basis of this, we can easily say that in the Tethys Sea or in Tethys geosyncline, the source of sedimentation was prominent, and due to much more sedimentation, what happened? Due to much more sedimentation, you can see this sort of subsidence of the floor. That was the main thing, that in lithogenesis process or in stage 1, Kober had said in his theory. Due to the sedimentation, as the sedimentation grows with over increasing weight, that was the subsidence of the floor. And as the subsidence of the floor taken place, these land of two sides came closer to each other, and when they came closer to each other, there was a collision between them, as we have seen through plate tectonic. Now that is the theory, or that is the first stage of Kober's theory, and that is lithogenesis. That means the origin of a geosyncline. Now one more question should be discussed here, that what a geosyncline is. What is called as geosyncline? That is a very important perspective of this question. Later we will discuss the main thing, that how to write the question, but now we have to understand the whole concept. Geosynclines are long but narrow and shallow water depression. So keep it in point. They are long, they are narrow, and they are shallow. Why they are shallow? Due to deposition and sedimentation of the coastal lands and the rivers. So here also you can understand that how the geosynclines are formed. And there is a different type of geosynclines. Geomorphologically, geosynclines can be of three types. Monogeosyncline, they are long and narrow tract. Polygeosyncline, they are also long but broader than monogeosynclines. So monogeosynclines are the narrowest one. Then comes polygeosynclines, they are also long but broader in nature than that of monogeosynclines. And mesogeosynclines, they are narrow, long, and movable, and this movability comes through plate tectonic and the depression of land. As in earlier slide I have mentioned that due to the depression, both the coastal part started to come each other towards the close, and that is the thing, they are a movable part. So the Terrace, as we all know about the Terrace as geosyncline, it is an example of mesogeosyncline. Now there may be a question that why it is called as mesogeosynclines, because we find a movable nature in mesogeosyncline and its two sides, Angarland in another and Gondwanaland in the other. These two sides were from Terrace, and here the two sides started to move, and as a result you can see the Himalayan mountain system generated. I will discuss it later also. Now first of all, we need to understand what is lithogenesis. We have clearly mentioned what the process of lithogenesis is. With that, we have discussed how geosynclines are formed. Next, we have to understand stage 2 according to Kober'S theory. In stage 2, Kober talked about orogenesis. And what is orogenesis? Orogenesis is related to mountain building. Due to the cooling of the earth, both the foreland areas start to move towards each other. Due to the movement, the contraction and squeezing taken place in geosynclines, and this squeezed area became a mountain like the Himalayas. Now one more term we have discovered here, that is foreland. What is foreland here? Which place is called foreland? So the foreland is a particular area in the formation of mountain. In lithogenesis process, we have discussed that due to the contraction, what happened? Due to the contraction or due to the cooling of the earth, a rigid mass is formed, and this rigid mass is called as median mass, and the extreme sides are called as foreland. Now after seeing that diagram, you will definitely understand what is median mass and what is foreland. The extreme sides, these extreme sides, or these are the coastal lands in our diagram. As we have mentioned earlier, these are the foreland. So these areas can be called as the foreland. That means these are the coastal areas, right? In this foreland region, we can see the orogenesis. That means it's simply related with the developmental stage of mountain. And in the case of Indian perspective, we can say the Angara land and the Gondwana land, where two foreland areas can be assumed as that, and by their mutual collision, Himalaya was formed. You can see the animated portion. These are the foreland areas, and whenever they collide, the two plates collide from the Terrace Sea, this Himalayan mountain system were developed. I hope you will understand after seeing the animation. Now there is a question that how they have formed and how we can understand actually that was occurred. So if you see the movement of the Indian plates in that diagram, you can see that Indian landmass, that means it was a part of Gondwana landmass. It was a part of Gondwana landmass along with Africa, Madagascar. These were the part, and Indian part, Indian landmass is called as Indian plate. Plates are the lithospheric slab. Okay, so with due respect to time, with different geological eras, the Indian landmass started to move towards the north and northeast, as you can see in that picture. And the landmass of Eurasian portion was stagnant. The landmass of Eurasian portion was still, that was not a movable one. In between that portion, the sedimentation of Tethys situated. In this portion, the sedimentation of Tethys were situated, and with the increasing pressure in that region, with the increasing sedimented pressure in that region, finally the Himalayan mountain ranges formed, just like this one. I hope you can understand now lithogenesis and orogenesis. Now the third point is the glyptogenesis. The third stage is glyptogenesis. What is glyptogenesis? According to Kober, glyptogenesis is a particular process in the stage of mountain building. Only gradual rise of mountains and their denudation taken place by fluvial or other processes that are activated in that region. That means it's a very simple thing. We can understand it like, first of all, lithogenesis. In this, geosynclines are formed with two edges or two coastal parts or the coastal areas. Next, we can see orogenesis. Here in the sedimented area, the extreme pressure started to increase, and ultimately the mountain developed, and in the third stage or in glyptogenesis, finally the mountain developed and its other part are also developed with respect to time. But not only development but also erosion of that region due to the fluvial actions, glacial actions or other erosional agents that were active in that particular area taken place. So that is a basic theory, that is the basic structure of Kober's theory, and by this theory he described how the fold mountains throughout the world have been developed. So there is some criticism, there is definitely some criticism. I will discuss it later. As of now, we have discussed the main three stages of his theory. And now we have to understand that whenever a mountain is built up, why there is an erosion. So now the first thing, if a mountain build up in that region, if it comes under such a condition where snow can be formed, there we can see the activity of the snow, that means the glacier activity, and with the help of the slope, with the help of the movement, that glacier started to erode the mountain region. If it is not, then definitely there will be some rain, and from that rain rivers will be formed, and that river will start to erode in that region. That will definitely make the mountain region a graded profile with due respect to time. So that is the main thing of the question that was asked in UPSC, and that is the main theory of Kober's that he elaborated in his book Dar Bau Dar Arde. Now in the question, one more important thing was mentioned, that evaluate. Now you have to evaluate, or we have to evaluate his theory, to what extent that is relevant, to what extent that is truly scientific. So in the question of evaluation, we will discuss what can be the possessive or what can be the constructive criticism of this theory. Now here we will write out the points of criticism. The first thing that is being discussed later, Kober talked about contraction as a component of the theory. So now the contraction, according to the different school of thought or according to different geomorphologists, the contraction power is not that much sufficient that will help in mountain building. Gigantic mountain like Alps or the Himalayas can be formed through the process of this contraction. The theory of plate tectonic is much more important. The way of the theorist of plate tectonic describe the formation or the orogenesis is much more acceptable than only the contraction theory. And here we also can understand that only contraction, or means the sedimentation, cannot be a proper theory. Sedimentation cannot be a proper explanation of how our mountain are being developed. So that is the first point. I am writing this in a proper manner. Contraction, that is the first point. He is being critiqued. Number two, Edward Suez. As we know, Edward Suez is also a great geomorphologist or technologist who have discussed different theories over mountain building. Edward Suez once stated that only one side of the foreland region moved and another side was stable. For example, Himalayas were formed due to the collision of two foreland, Angara land and Gondwana land. But the Angara land area was not in a moving condition. As I have mentioned you earlier, I have showed you earlier that Angara land was not moved. The Eurasian plate region didn't move. The Indian part only moved. So in his theory, Kober says that two foreland came closer to each other, and I also discussed it with sedimentation. When the sedimentation taken place, when it becomes heavy, depression taken place, and due to depression, I am showing you the picture when I was discussing. That is the main thing. Just keep it in mind. Just whenever the subsidence of the flow taken place, these coastal areas or this land, that means the foreland areas, came closer. See, they came closer. But as we can see in the formation of the Himalayas, only one coastal area, as per the term is considered, the only one foreland area was in moving condition, not the both. So that is also a point of criticism according to Kober's theory. In number 3, we will discuss. So in number 2, we will call it foreland conflict. And in number 3, we will say Kober fails to explain the north-south extension of mountains, such as Rockies and Andes. In this theory, we see the east-west expansion of the mountain region. But whenever the mountains are long enough in north and south in this direction, Kober's theory is not apt and appropriate. So these are the main 3 criticism or critical evaluation of Kober's theory. But it is true that his theory is one of those theories that helps people to understand how the sedimentation or how the origin of a geosyncline can be helpful in the way of mountain building. So that is the main discussion of that question of the theory. And now we will understand the structural format. So first of all, we have to write the introduction. Here we will mention about the theory in brief. Next, we will talk about the stages. That means the three stages: lithogenesis, glyptogenesis, and orogenesis. That will make the answer more prominent, and the examiner will be pleased to know that each and every process in this question is known to you. Stages. Now we will add some diagram. When we will talk about lithogenesis, we will provide the diagram of sedimentation, right? It will help to understand that whenever the rate of deposition takes place, there is a depression, and that depression helps to move that two part closer, and lithogenesis taken place. Now in second stage, whenever we will talking about orogenesis, we can provide a diagram like this. From that stage to that stage, it will make the examiner understand that from the depression, when the two part came closer, two foreland came closer, then it results to the highland, it results to the height of mountain. And in glyptogenesis, here we can attach another diagram just to make them understand the erosional process, or any erosional landform in the mountain region, specifically by river. That will be a best one, so that they can understand that glyptogenesis process is related to leveling of surface. It is related to leveling of surface. Okay, so introduction, stages, and now we will make the evaluation point. And in evaluation, you have to write these three major component, that the contraction, foreland conflict, and direction. You can write it through bullet marks, or you can write by mentioning these three as point. And at the end, as the examiner asked you to evaluate, you need to make a comment that this is the theory, not beyond any criticism, but that theory helps people to understand how the landform is developed, how the landform is developed with respect to time, and how the folded mountain throughout the world taken place. That can be a systematic approach of writing the answer. I hope you people get understand how to write this sort of question. And as I have mentioned earlier, what sort of question can be asked from this particular theory of Kober'S theory. You can be asked directly, briefly discuss the theory of mountain building. Simply, I am writing the question once again that can be asked. Probable questions. That can also be asked. Number one, briefly discuss the theory of mountain building. Number two, write down the stages of folded mountain development. Or number three, how much can be leptogenesis be liable to formation of folded mountain. Now in the third question, number one and number two question is quite same, but the number three question, whenever you will be asked to leptogenesis, that means you have to understand that lithogenesis, that is not lepto one, that is lepto. Lithogenesis is related to Kober's theory, and whenever you are talking of Kober's theory, that means geosyncline will be come into picture, and you have to write down the plate movement as I have mentioned earlier. You have to write down the plate movements also, that due to the collision of two plates or the foreland region, this happens. And in the structure, whenever I am talking about the diagram, keep it in mind that diagram must be more prominent, to the point and specific. No extra thing should be given, because you are given a particular number of words and a particular passage, so that answer must be crisp, concise and to the point. I hope this question is quite understandable to you. If there is any problem, if you want something more or something that you don't understand, please let me know in the comment section. I hope that will be helpful for you. This question answer session will be continued. On this note, thank you everyone. Have a good day.